So my project is on colorism in the classroom. What is colorism? Colorism is an ideological system. The common principle across ethnic and racial groups upholding colorism is discrimination against more melanated or darker skin. In the United States, preferential treatment based on colorism manifests both within and between racial groups. For example, white people and people of color with what are perceived as more quote-unquote European features, including skin color, eye color, hair texture, facial characteristics, and body shape, receive undue social privilege and advantage. Historical origins of colorism. In the United States, colorism evolved when the enslavement of people became a normal occurrence. Slave owners would typically give better treatment to slaves with fair complexions, while darker-skinned slaves worked outdoors in the fields. Their lighter-skinned counterparts usually worked indoors. The majority of the time, it was due to the slave owners were actually related to the lighter-skinned slaves due to the slave owners raping the darker-skinned slave women and creating lighter-skinned offsprings out of that as a result. How does colorism affect students? Colorism affects students in a couple examples that I have found. School suspension rates are higher for darker-skinned students compared to lighter counterparts. Colorism causes subconscious racial biases in students, as well as darker-skinned students are more susceptible to receiving cruel and unusual punishments due to behavioral problems. School suspension is based on skin tone, Using data from the National Longitudinal Survey of Youth, logistic regression analysis indicated that having a darker skin tone significantly increased the likelihood of suspension for African American adolescents. A closer look into the data displays the result of disproportionately taken by the experiences of African American females. The likelihood of suspension were about 3 times greater for a young African American woman with a darker complexion compared to those of lighter skin complexion. This finding was huge in the involvement of controls for parental social economic status, the link with behavior, academic performance, and several other variables. Furthermore, this finding was replicated using similar measures in a different sample of African Americans from the National Longitude Study of Adolescent Health, and this result suggested that the discrimination in the school discipline goes beyond broad categories of race and included additional distinctions in skin color, i.e. colorism. What is subconscious racial bias? Subconscious racial bias, or more known as unconscious biases or implicit biases, which are social stereotypes about certain groups of people that individuals form outside of their own conscious awareness. Everyone holds unconscious beliefs about various social and identity groups, and those biases stem from one another's tendency to organize social worlds by categorizing.
Don't wait for anything or anyone.
Michaela is a 7th grader at a majority white middle school. Her responses completely change depending on the race of the children in the picture.
Marcy and Renee are in school together, and they're in the hallway, and I'd like you to tell me what you think is happening in this picture.
She probably looks like she's gonna steal it because Marcia's like, oh no, what happened? And he's like, hey, look, $20.
And so, do you think that Renee is doing something good, bad, or just neutral?
I think she's gonna take the money.
Do you think that Renee and Marcy are likely to be friends or not?
Not really.
And what do you think about Marcy's parents? Do you think they'd be comfortable with her being friends with Renee or not?
Well, if they find out the situation that happened, they might be a little concerned about if Renee's a thief.
In this one we have Erica and Allison, and they're also in the hallway at school. Can you tell me what it seems is happening in this picture?
Allison looks like a sweet girl, so I think that she would pick up Erica's money and give it back to her.
Okay, so then do you think Allison's doing something good, bad, or neutral?
Pretty good.
And what about Allison and Erica? Do you think they're probably friends or not so much?
Yeah, they're probably friends.
Okay. Do you think Erica's parents would like it if she was friends with Allison?
Yeah.
Her responses, according to our expert, Dr. Melanie Killen, could indicate a subconscious racial bias, a bias that kids develop from messages they hear at school, at home, the characters in the TV shows they watch, and what they see online. And Michaela's reversing the scenarios based on race wasn't unique. 24%, almost a quarter of all children, both white and African American, saw their own race more positively than the other race. And this happened across all ages and all school types, no matter the racial demographics.
Being arrested, a cruel punishment that more commonly occurs with darker-skinned students. Black students in the United States are prone to disciplinary action rates as much higher than their white counterparts. These disciplinary actions put students at a higher risk of negative life outcomes, including involvement in criminal justice system, using federal data occurring with 3 million students at nearly 96,000 schools. This research demonstrates that the disciplinary gap between black and white students across 5 types of disciplinary actions is associated with the country level rates of social biases. One of these are being arrested in the school. Is known that a lot of schools focus more on discipline rather than mental health of the students, and it is known that a lot of teachers and staff at schools tend to believe that the black students or darker skinned students are more aggressive and that need a stronger disciplinary actions, and they are normally tended to go towards using the police just already from the back.
In September of 2019, a 6-year-old student named Kaya was sitting in her school's office.
Okay, she's gonna have to come with us now.
That's a police officer. This video comes from his body camera. At first, it seems like Kaya doesn't know what's happening.
Where are those for? No, I wanted some dogs. Oh, I was in school. I just saw you.
Earlier that day, Kaya had a tantrum. 3 school employees said that she had kicked them. The school called the police, who arrested Kaya on charges of misdemeanor battery.
I don't want to go to the police car.
The police dropped the charges after Kaya's grandmother sent this video to the Orlando Sentinel. Kaya's case isn't an isolated incident.
A 5-year-old girl being handcuffed by police in Florida.
For a year, he could not sleep alone.
He put handcuffs on me.
Tossed to the ground by a school resource officer.
What you're seeing are the effects of a larger problem in American schools. The U.S. doesn't treat all students equally.
Okay, so my personal experience when it comes to colorism, I am a African American woman, and I do live with a darker skin tone compared to like a lot of people my race. I have lived in this slide. I am talking about three different states I have lived in, and I have experienced different forms of colorism in all of them. In Texas, I lived in Fort Hood, Texas. So I lived right by an Army base. It was very diverse, but I do really recall a time in high school, my freshman year, a boy that was black but a little bit lighter than me told me that, you're pretty, but for a dark-skinned girl or a black girl. And I'm just like, why even say something like that? It was just really kind of rude. Like, black girls can be pretty. And then as well as the same person told me that he'd rather date a lighter complexion or just a lighter person or just a non-black, because black girls are considered to be ghetto, and that's just really a horrible stereotype. That's just ridiculous. In Georgia, I didn't personally get discriminated in elementary school, but I felt like my dark-skinned teacher, majority of my school was black, especially in the classroom, but there was a few like light-skinned as well as white kids, and I feel like my dark-skinned teacher showed more favor to the dark-skinned or the dark kids. And I remember one time in school, She had asked us to help her with a problem on the board, and then one of the lighter skinned students tried it and got it wrong, and she told us to laugh at them, and we all did. And looking back on it, it was wrong, but at the time I didn't think too much of it. In Missouri, it was like my school was diverse, but my class I was in was majority white in elementary school. I was in sixth grade. I was in second grade, as well as I remember at the time I did a project over Barack Obama helping out with like fossil fuels by using the wind power, and I ended up getting a C, almost failing the project. While people would do like little kitty projects, like over like a worm or the evolution of a moldy piece of bread or something like that, and they got A's and I didn't. So I feel like that was really kind of discrimination, especially like the majority of my students were lighter or were white, and my teacher was white too. So I feel like that also played a role in it. Conclusion: colorism is very real, especially in the school setting. I believe that it is wrong, and it can cause a lot of a negative emotional effects on the victim, the student's life, and it can lead to a lot of like psychological issues. When it's like it's a lot of self doubt, everything's just negative about it. I also feel like it's another form of manipulation to force dark skinned people to believe that their skin tone is not good at all, and that white is better and lighter is better, which is not true. I also feel like we already have a lot of like we already have enough division in our country. I feel like it shouldn't be even more added onto, especially in the classroom setting. We need to come together and learn and be a class together. I feel like this major step needs to happen to end colorism is by teachers stop quote unquote being colorblind. They don't see color. I feel like you're supposed to see color. You need to see representation. You need to see like everybody in the classroom should feel represented. Everybody should feel like they're getting taught their correct curriculum over their culture, and I feel like that does not happen because some of these teachers doesn't want to get called out or anything like that, but it's actually hindering the development of the students by not getting their full culture displayed. These are my resources. Thank you.